Welcome guys, today I'm with my bestie, Mrs. Sophia, and we are going to be talking about how to give advice in the best way possible because we've been friends for a really freaking long time, since we were like 11, we're 24 now. And the way that we have helped each other has changed massively, I think, in different ways.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Definitely.
We thought it would be helpful to share.
One of the most helpful things is when someone gives like banging advice that you were asking for. One of the most annoying things is when someone gives you advice that you don't really want. So like, that's the first thing to know before we even get into this video is no one really wants to hear your advice until they want to hear it.
Yeah.
And if you tell them something too soon, it could actually turn them off that good idea you have in the long term. You know, someone will always want your advice, don't worry. There's always going to be someone, but make sure it's the right person at the right time.
Agreed. We thought that we'd first start with talking about what we were like when we were younger. And this will probably relate to tons of people, even if you're not young. This is probably the way that people are giving you advice and you might find yourself feeling a bit icky afterwards, and this is why we think that might be. So what do you think that we were doing wrong when we were younger?
Let's say I called Jess and I called you and I said like, I'm having problems with my boyfriend, which actually was a thing at 11. Jess, how would you have reacted to that?
Oh my god, let's talk about it forever. I'll sleep on the phone with you if you want to.
Yeah.
Like,
what headline would you give that as? What kind of advice style that would be?
rescuer, potentially.
Rescuer, and also like the illusion of like unlimited, unconditional support, which is basically trying to be God. I am here all the time, I am present, I can have realistic, sustainable way to help someone is to just kind of be at their beck and call. Yeah.
It might seem on first glance that it only affects me in that circumstance because I'm the one, but I'm giving too much away so that I don't have any for myself left.
Yeah.
But then it leaves character of Fee to not be able to figure things
regulate
out.
myself.
Yeah.
It makes me over dependent. That can lead to resentment. It's like, why aren't you there when you said you'd be there?
And then you think that I will always be able to provide the same amount. You get used to it, like
exactly.
a drug, exactly the same.
So other way around, you've got a problem. What would your problem have been?
Someone annoyed me at home.
Someone annoys her. Don't worry, babe, you can come to mine. I'll make you dinner.
Yeah.
We can watch a movie. We can go to school together tomorrow.
Yeah.
The panda approach.
And I'm trying to think, how did that make me go wrong? Do you think it's the same reasons?
It's exactly the same thing. It's making the solution the other person. As opposed to helping them get the solution on their own. It's not breeding into dependence, it's breeding dependence. Teaching emotional regulation, teaching...
Yeah.
Actually, I was planning on having dinner with my mum tonight, so I'm not free, putting a boundary in place. But...
you as the person having the problem, when you're able to overcome it, if you are dependent on another person for it or an external thing, you'll never feel, it seems like, that same level of satisfaction and trust in yourself. I think is the most important thing. You don't believe that you are able to get through things because how you've been saved from that problem is not by your own doing, it's by
someone or something else. So much of the time we talk about like codependence and trauma bondings with like boyfriends. It's like they don't count if it's with friends. Like it's not as bad. Like it's not that it's as bad because obviously it doesn't really get toxic in the same way, but it's still something to watch out for.
Friendship breakups, separate. It
literally hurts my heart
it's
just
not
thinking
spoken about.
It's not.
And like these
not,
kind of things. Friendships you can get tied by the hip, and a lot of the time friendships don't experience maybe as intense emotions, so a breakup might never happen and you might forever end up, you know what I mean? Being like this, that the moment it stops.
And because of this, it becomes an identity crisis. Your identity becomes interlaced with who you spend time with and how they regulate you, as opposed to them being like a happy addition to your life.
Exactly. So, part 2, we're going to be linking this to the drama triangle, aka Cartman's triangle. Which is
basically a model of how like power structures in society are dysfunctionally charged into 3 parts. So there's the victim, persecutor, and then there's the rescuer. One way my psychiatrist describes it to me is it's like a piece of toast burns, and in the drama triangle, what you would do is you would call the fireman. It's basically a way to massively dramatize things. The way we're currently socially sort of like taught means that our default tends to be the drama triangle. Like if you're not taught otherwise, we think in those terms. We think, oh, who's the victim? Whose fault is it? Who's the persecutor? And like, who's gonna fix it? Who's the rescuer? That's how we are trained to think.
Anyway, so we wanted to just quickly link like the way that we were giving advice when we were younger and how you might be doing it now is linked to this triangle. Because as soon as you become the rescuer in that triangle, you automatically put the person into the victim mode.
For a persecutor, look for someone to blame.
Correct. So even though you think you might be doing a good deed, you can see that by being the rescuer, you're automatically putting someone down, which is not what we want to do. Instead, we'd like our triangle to look something like this.
The winner's triangle, so in the winner, the persecutor becomes assertive, rescuer becomes caring, and the victim becomes vulnerable.
Yeah, so I think this is an important thing to know. If you ever find yourself in a heated conversation, whether it's at work or even with your friends or boyfriend, are you demonstrating these dynamics? And if you are, if you see that one role is particularly you, like you specifically play the role of the victim, you keep saying, you know, it's not fair, and you notice that vocabulary.
Yeah.
Why me? Look at the word in the winner's triangle and how maybe you can...
Which is vulnerable. So taking that and thinking, like, will I feel vulnerable in this situation because, as opposed to making it external and saying it's not fair, bring it into yourself. How do you feel? You can still feel those things that make your brain say it's not fair.
Yeah.
But without being a victim, by just being like in a vulnerable state.
Yeah, like taking responsibility of your emotions.
Exactly.
They are okay.
Yeah.
We all have them and we can't really control them most of the time.
People struggle to be assertive because they're scared of being accused of being a persecutor, which is why people pleasing and codependency can be, like, it becomes so taboo, like being assertive. It's like, so basically the triangles, all you have to do is hold it in your mind and ask yourself, if you're being one of them, how can you flip it to be in the winner's triangle instead of the drama triangle?
Yeah.
And with that in mind, it's hard, it's simple, but it's not easy, I would say.
So for part 3, we just wanted to talk about the kind of people that you might be interacting with that might be coming to you asking for this sort of advice.
Panda's gonna be the people.
And we think that the best way to talk about this is in terms of looking at your battery. And Sophia's gonna take over here.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to introduce you to the two kind of people. So the first kind of person comes along and they're like, okay, so we've got a negatively charged friend with us today.
Yeah.
And they're saying things like, I don't know what to do with my life.
Quite blanket statements.
What should I do?
Yeah.
You know, honestly, coming back to what we spoke about earlier, they might be in the victim mentality. They might be being vulnerable, we don't know. But how do we go about this problem? What do you think? First of all, what would you naturally do if you saw someone like this?
Oh my god, what can I do to make it better? Like, let me take over your whole entire life and plan it for you, which is the wrong mentality to go about, because I will start feeling resentful to Panda over here and start not liking them for no good reason. I might like their personality, but because of how it's affecting me, I won't like it. So I would go about this now is I would create that soundboard, like we were saying, where this person kind of needs to have a conversation with themselves almost, which is almost what advice is. It's just talking to yourself, but using the other person as a helpful mirror almost. So I'd like to probe some questions that are inviting them to self-reflect almost, and to give them some sort of autonomy and a bit of trust in themselves that they can come up with why they might not be feeling as good, instead of coming up with random ideas and maybe them clinging on to one of them, you know, attaching to one of them because they don't have the energy or trust that they can come up with something
or
themselves.
Resenting you for speaking some home truths. What would be some of the like baseline level questions that you can ask?
How do you feel about this particular thing?
Always.
Why do you think you might be feeling that way? When you said this, what did you mean? Yeah, I think just
people
probing.
like it when you ask that extra question. So I know it sounds weird, what popped into my head is using the like how, what, why, when, and who.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Like actually, if you haven't asked all 5 of those questions, you probably don't really know what's going on. So like go through, obviously don't be a robot about it. And if you're trying to spit some advice out at them before you've even got that, like it's also worth looking at, maybe we'll have to do another video about codependence. But basically in a nutshell, like we have a reaction to someone else's emotions, and if we can't sit with the discomfort and the distolerance of seeing someone else upset, instead of actually trying to help them, we try and help ourselves by making them feel better, which can appear as being like kind, but really it's because there's an enmeshment going on there and we can't sit in that discomfort ourselves.
That's such a good point.
So basically you make it about yourself. So yeah, that would be the first
very good point.
person.
Like that. Yeah.
Positive, bounding, Pat's coming in, saying like, oh my god, you won't believe what just happened. I had this giant conversation, but like I really want to talk about it and I want to get really constructive with you and like I want to make everything better.
So the difference with this one that we spoke about in our personal lives is that we find this can sometimes be more empowering, and you can leave the conversation having a bit more energy. Yeah. Because this person is kind of almost willingly wanting to construct something.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're not having to necessarily force that problem-solving aspect out of them, as you might have to with the just because because they are simply feeling very down, which is maybe not their, to fault of their own.
But like the opposite is true here, because like with this person, you actually need to like get them to, like, the other person will divulge their feelings on you. This person might try and avoid them altogether. So you need to make sure they're actually dealing with this.
And that is your role in this situation.
To put comparisons in again, like the first person, the draining, will be much slower in their process, whereas this person will be too fast.
Yes.
So like you need to slow this person down and like get them to sit in their feelings, whereas the other person you kind of need to bring out of their feelings and like.
But I think the same questions apply to both that we spoke about before. Those questions will always work, and they'll always allow you to keep as much of your energy to yourself, I think, whilst making this person feel a bit better about themselves.
The other thing to say is, if it's too much for you, like if you're having a bad day, or you're exhausted, or this person is constantly using you for advice and emotional outlet, there is a time to put in boundaries as well. And most of us can feel it quite quickly in ourselves when something stops feeling nice and starts feeling uncomfortable, like I'm giving too much, or like this isn't reciprocated, or whatever it is. There's no obligation here ever to help, I would say, anyone, and I know that's a big debate, but like the only person that we 100% have no choice but to constantly help is ourselves. You cannot do that if you're constantly giving yourself too much to other people. So to conclude, first of all, we would like to thank Mr. Panda for being such an excellent actor. His name is Andy.
Very useful. Very useful.
We like Andy.
I think that was a good video. I think we covered a lot of things. We hope that you find it helpful, and if something was confusing, let us know, and we will do a lot of other videos surrounding the topics that we spoke about today, because I know there's a lot more to dive into. But ultimately, conclusion, how we help each other now is by trying to bring out the other person's feelings, because that's what's most important. We want to help understand Fee better and Jess understand Jess better. Not our opinions and viewpoints of the world are very different, and if we impose that onto the other, it'll make the other person feel shit, so we don't want to do that. And on that note,
bye!
peace.